we go. Got some 6 o'clock folks coming in. All right, I have started the recording. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to start obviously at the beginning here. Come on, there we go. And let me go ahead and start from the beginning. Okay, so all of you are on mute, which is great. Everybody knows the drill with Zoom now. So if you cannot see anything as I'm going along and talking about a slide that for some reason you can't see, or if there's just any issues, please, unmute yourself and let me know. You're welcome to keep your cameras off to, for privacy and just whatever you're comfortable. And then I will continue to admit people as they do come in. I am recording this just once again to share that information so that those families or students that couldn't join tonight can watch it later. Okay, all right, so let me go ahead and dive in. Thank you all for coming tonight. I know there's probably no good night in very busy parents and student schedules, but thank you for joining in. So I'm just so glad you're here. We are going to cover a lot of material, and I will be talking pretty quickly. I will be sharing the recording as well as my slides with everyone, the presentation deck. So no worries if you didn't quite hear everything that I was sharing, or you want to go back and review it. Obviously, you'll have a chance to do so. I also want to say up front that even though this is the official final meeting, if you will, because this essentially all students will have their decisions by April 1st, and they'll, then have till May 1st, National Decision Day, to make their deposit. I am still available and right here to continue walking alongside your family, all of the seniors, with any questions, any concerns, anything. There's still a lot of parts that are ongoing between now and when students move onto campus or begin classes in the fall. So I just want to clarify that, even though this is, the last official meeting, I am very much your ongoing resource. So please don't think that you still can't email, text, call, whatever it is, to reach out to me with any questions. And I will continue to send emails to everyone to, just make sure that as a reminder of certain deadlines that are going to be coming up between now and, again, the fall when classes start. Okay, all right. So obviously tonight is all about transition. This is one of the biggest transitions, the most important transition that students will go through, not just academically, but personally. There are just, right, parents, you've seen so many changes from the little person that you sent off to kindergarten until now, and those changes are just going to keep coming. So yeah, we're going to cover a lot of things to think about tonight, and to make sure you guys have a game plan for the end of the semester and over the summer, so that the fall starts out with all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, so to speak. Okay, so let me go ahead and move on to the next slide. I like to start here with the ways that college is different from high school. For parents that did attend college, university, much of this you already know, but this is to jog your memory banks, but also for all the students that are attending tonight or watching this later. See, there are very important differences between high school and college. Many that you're very excited about and all of that, but I want to make sure that you're aware of
Hey Zach, how are you?
oh, let's
Are
go
you
ahead.
joining Janice?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I muted him. Um, I muted you, Dot. Anyways, these changes are all reflective of a big change in independence. So students often are leaving their childhood home or the home where they spent, much of their years growing up, and they're moving out. This is their first place on their own, and with that comes a lot of independence. Um, with that comes a lot of things that students are now going to have to manage. So I'm wanting to highlight some of the bigger items, or the bigger areas here. The first thing that students need to understand is time management becomes an incredibly crucial component of your success in college. So you've all been working on that and doing that successfully, building those skills in high school, which is why you are now being admitted to colleges, because obviously time management was a big part of your high school success. But it shifts gears in college. Instead of going to class all day and then going home and having a few hours every night to do your homework, in college, you're only spending just a few hours in class every single day. Sometimes your schedule might be such that you only have classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some students only have classes on Tuesday, Thursday. Whatever that schedule looks like, it's just a couple of hours per week that you are in class. That leaves a lot of time for you to do other things. Um, but the most important thing for you to do is to structure your study time. Just because you're only in class for a few hours a week, that does not translate to unlimited free time. What successful college students do is they continue with the process of using their digital planners, paper planners, mostly digital, let's just be honest, but their scheduling software to carve out their study time. And it needs to actually, that's my biggest, one of my bigger recommendations is do that. Color code your classes, right? All of your, say your biology 101 class, that can be pink. Your English class can be blue. Your math class can be red, whatever. But have the class and then have your corresponding study time. The rule of thumb for college is that for every single hour, every 1 hour you spend in the classroom, you need to schedule at least 2 hours to that every 1 hour outside of the classroom for reading the material, doing research, learning on your own, doing the reading, studying, reviewing your notes, rewriting your notes, checking with friends in the class to make sure your notes are thorough. All those steps take considerable time outside of the classroom, and your college professors fully expect you as a young adult to be independent and get that done. And parents are not there, which, excites some kids, of course, but they're not there to remind you, right? To sort of make sure that all that work is getting done. That will be on your shoulders. So that is a very, very big difference between college and high school. Okay, the second big difference is that professors expect independent learning. This means they expect you to come prepared for each class. That's probably going to include reading whatever is going to be covered. You get a syllabus at the beginning of the year, or pardon me, the beginning of the semester or the quarter, and on that syllabus, it will walk you through what topics are being covered each week, each class period, and so you'll know what the reading material is, and that's something that you need to do before class. certainly in classes. And then there is not a lot of review, right? Professors are going to share the material, and that material may or may not be on the midterms or the tests, but all the material that is on that initial syllabus is what you are absolutely responsible for and what you will be tested on. Sometimes professors, like your high school teachers or like your college counselor, we might veer off into a different topic than what we fully intended. And then we run out of time, right? Your professors are going to do that a lot. And so they get excited about a topic and they might, go off on a tangent. Doesn't matter. You're still responsible for the information that they present to you on that syllabus. So it's a lot of independent learning, not a lot of review. That is where professors expect you to take the reins with your learning and really manage that whole process with your peers, getting into study groups, doing your own reviews, and so on and so forth. Okay, moving on. There's more ways that college is different. So the exams are going to cover a lot more material. For those of you that took any AP classes in high school, the rule of thumb is that an AP class is equivalent to a full year of an AP class is equivalent to a single semester of a college class. So if you can imagine taking AP Bio in half the time or AP Chemistry in half the time, pick your AP class, whatever it was, then in college, you're getting a lot of information, almost like a fire hose coming at you. And that just means that you have to be very diligent in attending every single class period, because you just can't afford to miss any of the lectures and any of the notes that you'll be taking. So that is just super important to realize. And then also, of course, being consistent in your study habits. That's where I recommend making sure those calendars are your daily go-to, so you know where you're supposed to be when your study blocks are for each class, so on and so forth. And if you do those things, you are going to do very, very well in your classes. Doesn't mean they won't be hard, but you'll do well. Okay, number 4, social freedom. It expands. You are going to meet so many new people. You'll meet new people at orientation, freshman orientation over the summer. You'll meet your roommate probably over social media, right? And then texting over the summer. And then when you get on campus, of course, you're going to be meeting people on your dorm floor, on your hallway, and all of it. And it's all thrilling and exciting. And you're there to learn. So yes, the first several days are just jam-packed with lots of activities, meeting new people, and so on and so forth. And you, as soon as classes start, you have to make sure that you are fully committed to those classes and making sure you're devoting a lot of time to that part of college. And then there will be sufficient time for all the fun and social activities. Because let's be honest, the whole social part of college is actually a big part of it. You're meeting people from all over the world in many cases. You're, creating friendships with people that you may not have ever thought you would be friends with or even meet. Because it's just going to be a much bigger world, obviously, than your high school. Okay, living with a roommate. If you are not one of the rare souls that gets a single, and it is extremely rare to have a single, you will be living with 1, possibly 2 other individuals, strangers, right? If you've never shared a room before, that could be a bit of a shock. So you will have to navigate communication with a a stranger, right? And navigate everything from what should the temperature be on a daily basis in the room to how many guests are we going to have in the room, during times that that you might prefer to study, to how clean are we going to keep our room, all those things that maybe you haven't even thought about. Those will start coming up day one, and that will be an important independent growing area for students, for you, because obviously you want to have a good relationship with your college roommates. They don't have to become your best friend. If you are fortunate, you do happen to make a really dear friend. My oldest daughter is still very good friends with her freshman roommate. They roomed all 4 years together. They were very compatible that way, and now they both live and work in the city of Seattle, Washington, even though neither were from Washington. So anyways, that worked out for my daughter, but you have an opportunity every so often, certainly every year, to change roommates. If there are problems with roommates, there are ways to handle that problem, and that will be explained to you during freshman orientation. I can always give you more details on what usually the process is, but for the sake of time, I'll keep moving on. Okay, and then obviously you are going to be responsible for you. So with all this independence and freedom means that you have to get yourself to bed at a reasonable time every day. Right now, college hours shift dramatically because college students tend to stay up significantly later than they did in their high school years. And they're, taking advantage of, again, studying, libraries being open at all hours, and sometimes night classes don't even get out till 10. So things shift. Your sleep times might indeed shift, but you still have to make sure, and then they sleep in a lot later, but you have to make sure that you're taking care of you and getting sufficient sleep. If you don't, right, things start to slip in other areas of your life. You have to be cognizant of your mental health. One of the biggest factors for freshmen, it's very, very common, no matter what your family life was or how much independence you may have had growing up or whatever, homesickness is quite real, and some students it becomes pretty overwhelming for them. There are lots of resources on campus to help students deal with homesickness. It is a very, very common theme for first semester freshmen, but homesickness hopefully should not equate to, oh, I can't do this, I'm going to just drop out at the end of the semester and move back home and blah blah blah. Doesn't have to happen that way. There's lots of resources to help you work through all of those very real feelings. Okay, and I'll point some of those resources out in later slides. And then money, even though you will have a meal card, right, that a lot of your, if you're living on campus, you'll have a meal card. There will be all the swipes on it that you go to the dining halls. You can, use that to buy food all throughout campus. You still have to manage, right? You probably won't have unlimited. That usually is way too much food, and it ends up being a waste of money every semester. But and then your parents, I imagine, will put some money in your checking account or whatever that looks like for you. But you still have to be cognizant of the fact that you just can't swipe everywhere you go, right? So you will, as time goes on, take more responsibility for what kind of money you are spending each and every semester. Okay, all right. So now let's move on to some of the most important next steps that are on the horizon for you. So as you know, May 1st is National Decision Day. That's the day that you, that's the very last day actually, that you can submit what's called an enrollment deposit. Enrollment deposits vary in amount. It can be everything from $100 to $500. My daughter's starting vet school, it's $1,000, but they're all different, right? Every school. All that information will be on your student portal, and it will give you exactly the steps that you need to know what that is and how to make that payment. But that is the last day. That's when you have to make a decision. Now, I say you have to by that date. The truth of the matter is, if you just can't decide, or for scheduling purposes, you've narrowed it down to 2, but maybe you can't actually go on a tour of the campus as an admitted student, one of your final candidates, until May 1st, you need to reach out to your final colleges, say it's 2, your 2 finalists, and ask them for an extension past May 1st. Tell them, you just weren't able to tour yet, and you're going to be on campus the 1st or the 2nd, and can you just have an extension? That they are extremely, extremely likely to grant that, and not then, basically take away your admitted slot. But you do have to make that decision pretty quickly. The housing deposits are a little different. Most of our college campuses across the country are extremely full with housing. They have limited housing capacity. Now, many universities have guaranteed freshman housing, so you should be fine in actually getting a spot. That's not true at every single university. So I encourage you to go look at what the housing situation is at your finalist college. But I would say that housing deposit, say you've narrowed it down to 2, you might consider, if it's at all financially feasible for your family, to put housing deposits down to both now, because that ensures you a better spot in line when housing assignments are made. Often what happens is, if students are just wrestling, or they end up not knowing their top school until that last, say April 1st, there are some schools that drag it out that long. And then you can't make a decision, right, until much later. As time goes on, the most desirable housing tends to fill up, obviously, very quickly. So if you are able, I do recommend putting a housing deposit down sooner rather than later. Now, that is forfeited if indeed you don't end up enrolling at the one school, but it oftentimes is worth a little bit extra money investment, again, because getting in line for the newer, better, dorms is always worthwhile. Okay, so enough on that. July 1st, this is something that you're, after you make, your final decision and submit your enrollment deposit, you will begin to get a lot of communication from your, now from your new home, your new college. And I want you to know that July 1st is the due date for a big majority of universities across the nation to receive your final official high school transcript. This is sent directly by your high school, right? They control when they've got your final grades in their system. The registrar of your high school controls all of that. And once all of those final grades are in, the registrar will be sending out those official final graduated, high school transcripts. So it does need to be an official transcript. And that should be coming directly from your high school. Some universities, like the UCs, will give you until July 15th. But I strongly recommend that students keep an eye on this, just like you kept an eye on your applicant portal to make sure that your application was complete. Keep an eye on that so that you see that they've received it. And it should get there a couple of weeks after finals, right? After all the grades are in. The important thing here is that you, the student, is 100% responsible for this happening. Even though I'm telling you, it has to come from your high school, what do you have to do to make sure your high school does it? You have to keep an eye on it, right? People make errors. Sometimes our digital lives, things get lost, right? Or they don't translate or whatever. This is a big part of adulting. You've got to keep an eye on those deadlines, okay? So I do want you to be getting into that, admitted student portal that is now yours, and make sure that this is arriving on time. And if it doesn't, you got to go down to your high school or pick up the phone and call and make sure it happens. So that's that. The other thing is that you can imagine if they don't receive your final high school transcript, they're going to assume you didn't graduate and you haven't met the required step that the college said you have to meet. And so your admission offer indeed can be withdrawn. So don't go there, okay? If you took any community college classes, please make sure that those transcripts are at your college, your new college as well. So during the application process, for those of you that did take college classes, we have sent your transcripts. So that's all you need to have on file with them. You don't need to have it resent. This would be for any college classes that you might be enrolled in now, any community college classes that you might be enrolled in now, anything that is more current that has happened and you've earned a final grade past when you and I completed your application and sent all that documentation. Okay, the next deadline that you need to be aware of is July 15th, and that is the deadline for you to make sure that your AP and or IB scores are sent to your new college. And the July 15th date has to do with the fact that July 10th is typically the date that AP test scores are released nationally. So what I recommend students do is log on to their College Board account and make sure that that the college that you have submitted your enrollment deposit to is a recipient for your AP test scores, right? As soon as you make that final decision, log onto your College Board account, make sure that your AP test scores go to that college. That will take care of one of the steps. So again, that's really important because, right, if you took AP English language as a junior, you want to make sure that official and you earned a 3, 4, or 5, right? Most colleges are going to accept that score. So and then you won't have to take freshman English. That's important, right? You don't want to have to take a class that is not necessary because you've already learned those skills and you can move on. So anyway, that's your next big deadline. Okay, the fourth bullet Oh my goodness. If you think I'm a broken record with some of this stuff, this will continue to be in your ear. You must keep checking your email. This is no time to stop checking your email. Certainly after you've made that enrollment in housing deposit. This is how colleges communicate with you. You already know this now. You can't miss any of those communications. Many of them do have additional deadlines, and they're all important. So be sure you're checking your email. I have some really sad stories of students who did not check their email as I kept repeating, and they had offers of admission withdrawn, and it is not easy to get those reinstated. I help everyone, and ultimately happy outcomes, but don't do that to yourself. It's not a good place to be. Okay, and then of course, completing your housing contract. Again, once you've made that final decision, and you will fill out forms, questionnaires that they will try to match you with a compatible roommate. So be sure that you complete all of that housing stuff in a timely manner, and be really honest when you're talking about what kind of level of cleanliness do you prefer? What are you, a night owl or what's the other, early bird? You know, like, be honest with all that, because they're going to try to match you with someone who shares those same characteristics. Okay, freshman orientation. This is where it gets really real and it's super fun. I want you all to sign up for the earliest orientation you can. Sometimes colleges will offer a freshman orientation before some of you are even out of high school. Well, obviously that one won't work with your schedule, but get on board with the very next one that works. And the reason for this is you will meet for the first time with an academic advisor during freshman orientation, and they will help you pick and sign up for your first semester classes. So this is beyond critical, right? You've got to get this step nailed down. Well, guess what happens in college if you don't go, if you end up waiting until the very last freshman orientation? By the time you go to register for classes, a lot of the ones that you may want will be full. So no room for you. You're going to have to wait till the next semester. They also, or you might get the only sections available, which might be 8 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Trust me, that is not a fun time to help a class. If it's the only one offered, you got to take it. But lots of times, a later start time is preferred. So please sign up for that early orientation, get your academic advising done, and get the classes that you really want and the schedule that you really want. You'll have options. There's, I don't know what everyone's appetite is, obviously, but typically students that do, like, I did with my firstborn, we'll do the unlimited. There is not enough time in a college student's day to get to the cafeteria, not using the right word, but anyways, to even have time usually for 3 regular meals. So they often let a lot of that meal plan money get essentially wasted. It just can't be used up. Usually 2 meals a day, 1 meal on the weekend, and then having a portion of money on the swipe card is more than enough. Students also like the flexibility to go get a coffee and a bagel with their friends, and and not necessarily in the dining hall, but in the Starbucks on campus, or all of that. So you want to make sure you build in a little flexibility with those meals. Summer bridge. Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Summer bridge programs. I don't believe that applies to anyone on tonight. These are programs often for students that have significant learning disabilities and or autism, and it allows them to be on campus early without all the crowd and kind of get their feet wet and get to know the places around campus, maybe holding a map and not being mocked forever, right? So that's what a summer bridge program is. If you have any questions about that, please reach out after this. A lot of information about all the clubs happens during orientation. And this is also where I'm a bit of a broken record. But if you were to Google what the number one, or ask ChatGPT what the number one success strategy is for having just a great college experience and being successful, right? It is getting involved. Join a club, join multiple clubs, just sign your name, get on lists, right? I trust you. It's way more efficient. Well, maybe not efficient, but those clubs will get back to you. It's going to be more organized, I think, a lot more organized than your high school club brushes, where you might have signed up and then no one ever did anything. But these are your opportunity to meet people and to meet people outside of your roommate, to meet people outside of your hallway. You've got to get engaged. Pursue new things. Pursue your favorite things. If you are wanting to be with all the other people that like to go out and hike on the weekend, join that club. If you want to be in the club that is, future finance gurus of America for finance majors, join that club. But join. That will help you get engaged, and it will help you really ink your relationship with your college more than most anything else you can do. So be sure to do Club Brush and sign up for lots of different things. And then you'll also learn the really cool thing, like the cheer. This is where you learn the words to the songs and all of the traditions. And that is a very, very fun part of college. Okay, during orientation, you may take some placement testing. Most times, AP test scores will test you out of any of this placement testing. But again, read your emails, make sure you know exactly what you have tested out of. And then whatever you haven't, you will have to take, just these placement tests so that they make sure, obviously, you're in the right math or English. Okay, and then we talked about the academic advisor. Okay, I have a really lengthy summer task list for both students and parents. I will send this basically as a checklist that you can stick on the fridge or your family bulletin board or keep by your computer. But these are all really good tactics for you to do, steps for you to take. Again, to start out and just be just confident and fully aware of what's going on campus, and day one be able to engage. So one of the things that colleges all do now is they have, when you went on the tour and they showed you the poles with the blue lights and they talked about the blue light system, that's still a good feature, but a lot of that is being supplanted by your phone and your alert. So if there should be just a power outage in a building, or if there should be a campus-wide, heaven forbid, any kind of intruder, you've seen in the headlines, sometimes horrible things happen. Anything like that, it will be sent right to your phone. Parents, you can also sign up, so you will be alerted for many of these things as well. I can't tell you how many power outage alerts I got from my youngest daughter's college. I was like, let's get an electrician and get rewired because it was just a lot. But do that before you show up on campus. Be sure to explore the student website and the college's website, and very importantly, your student portal, right? Know where to make payments, know where to order transcripts, know where to check your grades. All of that administrative stuff is a big part of adulting and a big part of what will be your responsibility. So, throughout your 4 years. So good to sort of know where to go for what. A lot of universities, actually all universities, will have you take some online training before you show up. And this will be things like sexual harassment. What is sexual harassment? What constitutes sexual harassment? What not to do, obviously. But also, if you're going to a dry campus, or even if you're not going to a dry campus, they will want you to know what the rules are for alcohol on campus. Certainly, if you're not 21, for recreational drugs, for tobacco, for illegal drugs. All of that will be covered in this online training. So be sure to get that done over the summer. You will be held responsible, obviously, or you can't say, well, I didn't know. That's not going to fly because they have you go through the training. And then you're going to have a new learning management system. It may be something that you're familiar with from high school, but again, just take a minute to double check, see what it is, make sure you know how to get around, how to use it. You are all using some sort of digital, I'm assuming, planner at this point. That was something we've covered over the years of working together. So don't stop now. That will just be part of your life forever. I do recommend spending this summer organizing your computer files and email folders. So, if you still got all of those emails from the plethora of universities that reached out to you via email, clean all that, right? Get those out of there. Even going forward, a lot of students will retire their college communications email that you and I use. Obviously, they'll keep their personal email, and then now you'll have your college email. Get into the habit of once a week keeping that thing clean so that you don't have, 50 unread emails. That will be a really helpful habit to get into, and you might as well start over the summer. Okay, start to find out what all the different clubs and campus organizations are. If you're interested in faith-based organizations, there's an entire section of the nationally based and locally based organizations on your college's website that you might want to, get involved with. Again, there's going to be a huge list of clubs that you can check out and kind of, decide, well, I'm going to look for these clubs booths and go sign up there. So just so that you're not, be intentional is basically what these are all telling you to do over the summer. And then try to keep reading. I know you've got a lot going on. You'll have graduation parties. Hopefully you'll have some fun trips. You'll have lots of time with your friends, and all of those, laugh this, laugh that, laugh the other. But, do pick up some reading material just to keep your mind active and engaged, because in college, no matter what your major is, you will be reading a lot. So you don't want that skill to atrophy over the summer. Okay, dorm life, big part of college. Here's a nice little checklist of things that you should do as you prepare to begin dorm life. Be truthful when you answer that roommate questionnaire, right? You don't want to end up with someone who's totally opposite. Once you're matched, you will get your new roommate's contact information. Start instant messaging each other. If you happen to live nearby, right, you guys can meet up. You can Zoom. you get it, right? Establish some sort of connection, if at all possible, before move-in day. Colleges, some will provide you with a refrigerator, microwave setup. In my experience, many of those don't work great. They're old, they're kind of, ooh. So, but see what the rules are for you bringing your own refrigerator, your own mini microwave. Many things that you think might make life easier as far as being able to heat up food or make food in your room are forbidden in college dorms. They don't want fires and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of rules of what you cannot bring. Check on your housing contract and it will certainly tell you, but just coordinate with your roommate so there's not 2 fridges, 2 microwaves. Like that would be kind of silly and take up a lot of space. If you don't know, college dorm mattresses are icky. They've been used like for years. They're usually not high end. Invest in a mattress topper. You will sleep so much better. And yeah, they're definitely worth the investment. A lot of dorms will let you loft your bed. Think of it as a bunk bed. Lofting can look like a bunk bed. It can look like a T with one bed up, one bed sticking out. There's all sorts of different configurations. A lot of times students will loft their beds. It's basically putting them on risers so that you can put like a little futon or a little couch underneath the bed area. You can put some storage under there or whatever. It just gives you a little bit more space in a pretty small room. Take a power strip with you to plug in your computer and all your stuff. You, my friends, are all going to be doing your own laundry, so don't forget laundry supplies. And depending on your dorm configuration, you'll want to be sure to pack shower shoes, right? Just, I don't know, seems like a good idea for from a cleanliness perspective, right? In my opinion. And then you're, again, depending on the configuration of the dorm, you may have to carry your toothbrush and toothpaste and shampoo and soap down the hall to where the showers are, you know, each time you use them. Some dorm bathrooms have cubbies or even little lockers, kind of like, you know, your high school PE rooms, all of that. So you could possibly do that. Just going to depend. So you'll find out really soon. For anyone that takes prescription medication or might have something valuable, like other than your phone, I don't recommend taking anything valuable to college. Things have a way of walking away. But if you're taking any kind of prescription medicines, I do recommend just a small safe so that you can lock them away and so they're there for you when you need them. Again, dorms tend to be, oftentimes students will block open their door, you know, a lot during the day to be friendly. And so that when people are walking, especially the first several weeks, as people are walking up and down the hallway, you start to get to know each other. And that can be super fun. Unfortunately, not things can disappear as well. So just kind of a tip there. Okay, you are going to a little mini city, whatever college you choose. And there are, like any city, there are lots and lots of resources to help you in all different facets of your life as you live there. Certainly from a college perspective, a lot of the resources have to do with academics. I strongly recommend that you identify where the math and writing and tutoring centers are. These are places that freshmen should use, whether you are just finishing AP Calc BC, or maybe you've gone beyond that, or maybe you're in pre-calc, whatever. Math will be challenging. It always is because you're going to be going to the next level and you want to know where to go for help. Your tutors at the Math Center and then the Writing Center, those are included in your fees. Your parents, or whatever the financial arrangement is between you and your parents, you're all paying dearly for your fees for these services. So technically, while they're free as you use them on campus, that's all being covered by those tuition and fees that you do have to pay. So please use all those resources. They'll help you be successful. The library, you'll know where that is. It's a great place to go when the dorm is too noisy, where you just need to go and have quiet and sort of regroup. Even if you don't need to study, it can be a lovely, quiet place to just have some time to yourself because those dorm rooms can be really small sometimes. Okay, academic advisors, you'll learn where yours is, depending on your college, depending on your major. You may have an academic advisor specific to your major day one as a freshman, and you'll continue with that person as you go on. Often, a lot of colleges will have you work with academic advising staff, freshman year, sophomore year, and then as you get into your major classes, junior and senior year, then a professor advisor comes alongside you and makes sure that you're getting all of the right courses in order to graduate in your major. So that's going to look different by each college, but typically every university now, and I'm using that interchangeably with the word college, requires that you have a meeting with an academic advisor and they sign off electronically, which then opens up your course registration system. So colleges are not just skimming over academic advising as they might have in years past. They're making sure students go before every single course registration every semester so that you're progressing and moving on. Okay, for students that have any kind of learning disability, any kind of disability, there's the Student Disabilities Office. This is also available to students that have an illness, or they, heaven forbid, break a leg or break an arm and they need help taking notes in class, or they need to get permission to record the professor's lectures because their arm is broken and or their hand is broken, or there's all sorts of things that can happen, right? So the Student Disability Services Office is there for temporary disabilities. I had a student, a parent, call me a couple weeks ago and let me know that their child had come down with mono, at college, and they're like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, "You have to go to the Student Disability Services immediately because they will help you reach out to professors, let them know you're ill, and help you get the support and everything that you need so that you can either continue and finish out the semester, or sometimes, a withdrawal has to happen for medical reasons. But anyway, that all is, there's help there on campus through that particular office. If your computer blows up, breaks, isn't working, you don't know what to do with it, get yourself to the IT support center. That's often in the library. Financial aid office, again, depending on your family situation, if you're receiving any kind of financial aid, that would be a good place to know where to go so that if there's any glitches along the way, you know who to go talk to. And then these other services are all ones that I really encourage you to get engaged with. Career services, it's important not to wait until you are a graduating senior to find out how to get help with a resume, how to get help to find a job. You should be engaged with career services as a freshman because those people will help you write a professional resume early on in your career, even if you don't have a lot of experience with anything. or working for a company, but they'll also help you secure internships and all of those steps along the way. Health center, right? They will, do things, everything from Tylenol to a little bit more serious. If you get the flu or anything like that, they are there to help you. And then the counseling center, great place to go if that homesickness is overwhelming you or anything else from a mental health standpoint. Universities will grant you anywhere from, say, 5 to unlimited visits for free with psychologists on campus. And then the rec center, right? Keep healthy. Okay, I've included some links to study resources that I have shared with some of you over the years. The Stanford Learning Strategies website, fantastic. If your college doesn't have anything similar, use these. Great tips on how to do everything from take, the strongest notes in college level notes in your classes to, all sorts of things. This college success plan is a company that will help you with executive function skills. I can explain that more outside of this, but basically for students that maybe are overwhelmed with trying to figure out how to balance the social, the academic, the studying on their own and all of it, this company you can hire them to have a mentor that basically helps you semester by semester to come up with, help you through all of those processes, because it can be a lot all at once. My homework planner, this is a great app. And then certainly for digital planning, Google Calendar or Notion, these both will help you with time management. Okay, scholarships. So college is expensive. If you haven't gotten the bills yet, they're coming, and you'll know that, well, you already know, it's very, very expensive. I encourage students to keep applying to scholarships, right? There are a lot of different scholarships out there. You've heard this probably for years and years. I think that these first 3, these are well-known and essentially national databases. These are companies that have databases. You create an account, and then you get emailed scholarships that it matches to you, and you can decide whether you're going to take the time to apply. What's challenging about these guys is that these are often national scholarships, so there's a lot of people applying to them. It's just like your whole application to college process, super competitive. I think students have a much higher success rate when they go to their college's website, scholarship website, and search there. And when they seek out any scholarship in their major. So the reason those are great is because far fewer people are applying to them, and they're more specific to your areas of interest. The college scholarships are typically all coming from alumni who, want to give $2,000 or $2,500 or whatever to a student who's studying X and, interested in Y. So those are typically going to generate it's going to have a higher return on your investment of time. So I encourage everybody to give that a shot. The university's scholarship, internal scholarship database will be available to you after you submit your enrollment deposit. It basically unlocks that. I've had students tell me that they applied to all sports over the summer, and they might end up reducing their bill by $5,000, $7,500. That can add up quite nicely and be again worth the time. So here's some good tips. Again, I'm going to send this deck to everybody because I know that I'm covering so much material. and we're already getting to the hour. But if you're going to be driving, these are all important things to make sure you've got covered. If you will not be taking a car to campus, then here are things that you want to make sure you you take care of and just are ready to go there. I would imagine most students are doing Uber and or Lyft, but there are colleges have pretty decent transportation systems. City buses are typically free for college students, and there's a lot of ways to get around, even and to the airports or to the major downtown areas, even if you don't take a car to college. So maybe check that out, so you don't even have to worry about having a car freshman year. That is just one more thing to kind of deal with. Okay, health and medical. If a student has never visited a doctor or any kind of medical service on their own, like without mom or dad in tow to answer all the questions on those sheets that you have to answer when you're at the doctor's office, make sure that you have the information before you go off to college. So obviously you'll need an updated insurance card, but I also recommend that you create a list of any medications that you take, what the dosage is, how often you take them. You definitely need to have a copy of your immunization record. You will not be able to move into the dorm without that. You have to submit it before move-in day. And every college will have different vaccination requirements, and those have to happen again before move-in day. So please check all of that detail over the summer. Make sure you get your tuberculosis test. That needs at least 72 hours, right? So you've got to make sure that gets done. There's a lot of those things that absolutely need to happen. Not hard, but they're adulting skills, and you got to make sure they're covered. I also recommend that parents help their kids by creating, I'm sure with chat nowadays at AI, or even if you ask your doctor, could I just get like an intake form? What information will my child need when they go to the doctor on their own and they have to ask these questions? You always get asked about past surgeries. Well, what if you had your tonsils out when you were 12? I bet you don't remember all of that. So any of those kinds of things can be helpful, so that again, your child can be independent as they're away from home. And then one big important thing that people might overlook is verify your insurance coverage in whatever state your child is moving to. So just make sure that everyone knows that they've got the coverage ready to go and what that looks like. Okay, I will also provide the parent checklist. I've got two pages of different things that I think are really important to have in place before the student moves into the dorms. And you can see the first page is all about money and how it gets, how your child is going to be accessing money. So look that over. And then you probably won't need this last one, but it's shocking how many people don't know how to properly address an envelope. On the rare occasion that comes up, it might be worth looking into. If that doesn't get covered, no stress, just ask AI and it will tell you. Okay, a lot of this can you'll have a good helper as you take your AI, your favorite AI, to college. Just not for classes, obviously. Okay, and then parents do sign up for those safety alerts. There are parent portals or parent associations. Those are super helpful to join. Some of them still use Facebook as the primary platform. Just see what your child's college uses and sign up for that. That way you'll get good information about upcoming breaks, about parents' weekends, things that your child may forget to mention to you, right? So that will keep you involved in that way. Parents' weekend comes up pretty quickly every fall, and that is when hotels sell out. All the good ones fill up, and so book those early in over summer, right? And it's the big games. If your child's going to a college that has, the big football games, try to figure that out and make sure you're getting your flights and reservations, because you don't want to miss out on some of those super fun experiences. Okay, and then let's keep moving on. We're almost to the end. Legal documentation. There are things that I strongly recommend you have in place before your child moves out, and these are them. So durable power of attorney, for people that may not be familiar, this is a legal document that lets you choose someone to handle, that lets your child, the young adult, choose someone to handle their financial or legal matters if they're unable to do so themselves. Heaven forbid, but better to be prepared and have this in place than not. My own daughter, when she was a sophomore, she was in a horrible accident, and she was incapacitated for a while, and we did not have this in place. So don't do what I did. It was a mess. I had to get a lot of things. I scrambled, and it just made things very, very difficult for us to make sure we were taking care of all of her business items, her academic items, and so on and so forth. Advanced directive, and this is part of, once you turn 18, you are now responsible for these big decisions, and having an advanced directive as part of your healthcare plan, so that, again, if anything, heaven forbid, should happen to you, it tells your family and your healthcare providers what your wishes are. So anyways, that's good to have going. FERPA. FERPA is really key. FERPA stands for, students already know this because they had to sign one as they submitted their application, but it stands for Federal Educational Rights Privacy Act. Once your child is enrolled in a college, the college cannot share any information with you. Nothing. That is part of students' private records. So hold on, let me make sure. I think everyone's muted. Okay, so the FERPA authorization is a document that every university has on their website. You can just type into the search bar on the website, and it will come up. The student actually needs to fill it out, sign it, and the student needs to submit it to their college's registrar's office. That will then go on file, and that will, again, if anything happens, then to your child, you will have, the college will have your child's permission to talk to you, to share information with you. This was a missing document, again, by yours truly, who should have known better, but I didn't have it in place. And when my daughter had that accident, I couldn't talk to Student Disability Services to get the help to reach out to her professors to let them know she had been in this accident. She was under care, and she wasn't going to be able to continue with her classes, and all these sort of accommodations needed to get into place. So it took us several days to get that done. Don't recommend it. So have that done before before the new year starts. HIPAA, that is the Healthcare Privacy Act. And again, as a parent, now once your child turns 18, you can't call and make doctor's appointments for them. You can't ask for any medical records. Like, even if you're trying to be helpful, you have no right to any of that anymore. So unless there is a HIPAA form on file and the student has authorized the parents to have access to that information. Medical power of attorney is the last one, and that is a document that lets the student appoint someone to make healthcare decisions on their behalf if they're unable to make them. So all of those things, if you need to know more about them, check with your personal attorney. You can Google all of these things, obviously. And then for those of you that don't have a family attorney, this website, Mama Bear, I love the name, mamabearlegalforms.com, will, for a relatively modest amount of money, maybe $100 or less, help you put many of these in place. They will be boilerplate forms that the student will fill out and sign, and then actually you have to sign them in the presence of a notary, and you can go to a UPS store and get that done, or there's traveling notaries, and there's notaries in many places. So that's how you can sort of do it yourself if you don't have a family attorney. And then last checklist here, you should also identify off-campus resources. Don't forget that, if you are someone who already has that you're seeing a mental health provider, either figure out if you can continue to see that person remotely, and if you can't, you'll have to find a new one locally. Healthcare providers, again, it's always good to know where doctors are or dentists. There's a time that you may need those people. All of a sudden you need a root canal, or one of your fillings comes loose, or all sorts of things, right? And if you're not at home, you have to get those things taken care of on your own. So just good to identify some of those early. Local pharmacy, very important. Not a lot of universities have a pharmacy on campus, so you do have to go off campus and seek out, a Walgreens or a CVS or whatever, and get your prescriptions taken care of there. If you currently take prescriptions, you need to find out if those can be, they often do need to be changed and filled in if you're crossing state lines. A lot of that stuff doesn't translate over state lines, so look into that before you go and before you need it. Locate your closest emergency room, and certainly an urgent care facility. Your local the campus health center can help with some real basic stuff, but sometimes you might need something at a higher level. Again, I'll use one of my daughters as an example. She literally texted me during one of her calculus classes, and she's like, "Mom, I can't breathe." And I'm like, "What do you mean you can't breathe? Why are you calling? Why are you texting me? Call 911, get help if you really can't breathe." And she was explaining that her throat was closing up and it was making it really, really hard to breathe. So I said, "Go to the ER immediately. You must be having an allergic reaction." So she did, and sure enough, she had started some new medication while she was home on Christmas break. And then when she went back, she started to have this allergic reaction. So anyways, luckily, she was fine, but it was pretty scary. So these little things, they're not little things, but these are all steps that, again, I think if you have them in place before life gets going, when you're on your own and your parents are back home, they'll just make things go much smoother for you along the way. And then where are those grocery stores? You indeed will get tired of eating whatever food is for sale or available to you on campus. Doesn't matter how great the cooking is, it starts to feel routine after a while. It's like going to the same restaurant, every day, 7 days a week. It tends to wear students down. So you do want to mix it up, right? And you don't have to spend a ton of money outside of your meal plan, but if you can get to a Trader Joe's or this or that or the other, you'll at least be able to mix up your meal plans and keep things fresh and all of that. Okay, we did it. We got to the end. I know that was so much information. But here we are. I've flown through it. I am going to send you the recording. I will send you the deck so you can go through it at your leisure. But at this point, I want you all to know that it was my absolute honor to support each and every one of you through this process. I just can't thank you enough for trusting me to bring you this far along in the process. And I want all the best for each and every one of you going forward. I hope you'll let me continue to follow you on Instagram. I promise I won't stalk you, but I love to see what you're doing and how you're engaging and you're at your college campus. And I want you to go be great because you all are great and you all have such bright futures in front of you. So go after it and congratulations to everyone. And that concludes my formal presentation. So I will go ahead and stop there and stop the recording.